Yeah.
All right, so we are at 12 seconds now, so let's get started. Hello, Facebook. Today I am bringing to you health coach and friend, Andrea Anderson. So, my computer's, of course, making all these noises now. Okay, perfect. So, welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and we tried this, and now we're on our third attempt. So here we go. Finally, let's talk sugar addiction.
Yes.
So Andrea is a health coach, and she helps you with things that are actually some of the hardest things to do, which is, as we all know, kick sugar addiction, make lasting lifestyle changes, and kind of empower you to maintain those good changes in your life. And that's arguably one of the most important things you could be doing for yourself right now, in my opinion. Don't you think so?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about why health coaching? How did you get into it? Why are you passionate about it? Why sugar specifically? Let's just dive in.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So as far as the coaching part goes, that really goes back about 13 years or so ago, where I knew I was called to do coaching. I went through a life coach program at the time, but I also had become pregnant, had my third child, and even though I completed the program, I was like I had a freak out moment of not knowing what to do with it going forward, especially having 3 young kids at the time. So I just kind of tabled it, but it was something I knew I wanted to come back to. And then about 7 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with heart disease. And that for me was a really big wake up call as to how foods really impact our body. Up until that point, I had always considered myself a healthy person, pretty much because I've never really struggled with my weight or, some of those other things that sometimes we think, that we need to address. So I didn't really pay too much attention to what I was putting into my body. Just kind of ate the way most people eat. But when my dad was diagnosed, it felt like a really big shock to us, because even though he had a history of high cholesterol and high blood pressure in his family, prior to his diagnosis, he had really taken a good look at his health, and he was exercising a lot. Like, he had gotten better, more on top of his diet, and he looked great. Like, he was probably in the best shape of his life since his teenage years. And he was actually in the middle of a physical for work when the doctor came in and actually pulled him off the treadmill, because they had gotten test results back that would, they thought he could have a heart attack or a stroke, in the middle of being on the treadmill in this physical. So it was a huge wake up call. My parents were hoping he could avoid heart surgery, since that's a very traumatic surgery to undergo. And before his diagnosis, they had become aware of the book Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. And for those of you that don't know, Dr. Esselstyn was a cardiologist at the Cleveland Clinic. He's since retired, but he was the one, especially in our area, that really helped pioneer the idea of how a plant-based diet could help patients with heart disease. If anybody has more questions about that, I'm happy to talk about that angle of it. But because I wanted to support him, and because I've always been someone that I'm medicine as a last resort, not the first resort, I knew that I needed to really start paying attention to what I was doing. And so I read the book, and then I just decided I was going to try this plant-based diet approach for those reasons. And I ended up falling in love with it. I felt so good. I ended up losing some weight that I didn't need and wasn't expecting to. But yeah, I just felt good. I felt a lot lighter, had more energy. And I was like, this is something I'm going to continue doing by and large.
So could I hop in really fast? With what you're saying, that I find so interesting is so many people come to me and they're like, my goal is, and it's something cosmetic, and it's okay, but they're like, I just want to lose this weight, or I just it's so interesting that sometimes it takes something cosmetic for us to make a change, but you didn't have that. And unfortunately, you had to find out through something scary. And we talk about this a lot in our office, is that symptoms are the biggest liars of the body, because no one's sitting there thinking, I probably have heart disease. I can feel it. It's happening. I can tell that there's some cancer happening right here, so I should get that checked out. That you don't know these things. Too often there are diagnoses that you find for yourself later in life that come up as a surprise. And that happened with my mom too. She made so many big changes in her life and cleaned up her diet and cleaned up her life, and and started like eating out of mostly her own garden and canning vegetables and so many things, and still ended up with a diagnosis. And it's like, we tend to think it's all about like cholesterol and your cholesterol values, but it's not. There's hormone imbalance, there's magnesium deficiency, there's sleep apnea and oxidative stress that goes into it. There's just like toxins themselves, plasticizers, BPAs. These are the kind of things they're finding in plaques from your coronary arteries these days. And it's not a complete picture to think about it as cholesterol. And the way that you can build your health, as you now know, is through the removal of stressors, and not only through the removal of those stressors, but also through building your health in a positive way. And it can be a plant-based diet, or it could just be a natural diet too, that is like free of toxins and estrogens and all of these processed ingredients and what essentially is just poison. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. And I've been aware, because I've kind of turned myself as a biology nerd. Like I love like learning about the body and how it works. And so I knew before that point too, that heart disease in women looks different than it does in men. So I think that was also a wake up call for me. It's like, just because I might look healthy, or, it doesn't look like I might be struggling with certain things. Like I didn't want to just delude myself that I was going to be fine.
Totally.
Yeah. So that was one of the big things. And then, a few years after that, I had still been experiencing some underlying health things. There's just something there. Like I feel like I'm pretty in tune with my body. And so something still felt off. Like I felt like, considering the diet that I had, and, I was exercising, that I felt like I should have more energy than I did. I was experiencing like digestive issues that were really annoying, like just having a lot more gas and bloating. It was annoying. And so like there was times where I would mention it to my doctors, but as far as like the energy levels, they would kind of ask me, okay, well, what's going on? I'm like, well, by that time I had 4 kids. They're like, well, I have 4 kids. And they would just kind of be like, well, you have 4 kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like, I know it sounds crazy, but I know that there's something else that's going on. And I just didn't feel like
everybody say that,
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they know like that you can overhaul your life, make these big changes, and like really drastically improve your health and how you feel from day to day. But I think they are like, I am not the person to do it with you. Like, you don't have a diagnosis and you don't have a prescription that you need, so I can't help you. And that's fair if they're not the person, but then say, hey, then check out a health coach, check out a chiropractor, check out a functional medicine doctor, and see if you can dig deeper. That's the only thing I feel like is missing.
Yes.
They're not like sending you anywhere where someone can help either. They're just not diagnosing you with anything and saying you're fine.
Right. Or even like another thing that I've come to appreciate, especially in working, like in coming to see you and whatnot, is how much our stress levels also really impact that. Like I know, looking back now, that stress was also a huge component of that. And I feel like the mindset in more of the traditional medical community is like, oh, well, you're stressed, but there's like no, oh, and this is what you can do about it. It's just like,
yeah, it just is.
You're stressed, like, yeah, like we know what's causing it, but and that's it. So anyway, like I started to really pray about what I needed to do, since I didn't feel like I was getting the support that I needed from the doctors that I was going to. And in that, like, I felt like God was telling me, okay, you need to detox from sugar. You need to like break up from it in a big way. And I resisted it at first because it's not an easy thing to do, right? Like so much of our culture, so much of the way that we are raised is very sugar centric. Like I grew up eating all the candy and of course like all the traditional, celebrations, cake, ice cream at birthdays, like all the desserts at Christmas, all of that.
Well, because even like the orange juice you have in the morning as a kid growing up, it's so much sugar in it and no real fiber, and it's just basically sugar. You might as well drink a Pepsi. I
Yes.
mean, and even the research shows these days that most babies get addicted to sugar in the womb.
Mm.
Mom's
Yeah, I
sugar
can see
addiction,
that.
mom's gut bacteria or lack thereof is passed
Hmm.
right along to baby, and there you
Hmm.
go. So we're like
Yes.
deeply ingrained in this addiction,
Hmm.
and it's the same part of your brain lights up. If they do a functional MRI where they map your brain, the same part of your brain lights up as people who have a cocaine addiction, that have a
Hmm.
sugar addiction.
Yes.
So that's creepy.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. And actually, yeah, I used to love juice. Like, and I'd be like, oh, I'm getting 100% juice, and like look for the better juices. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just liquid sugar. So yeah, I had really suspected that I had a systemic yeast infection in my gut, and I feel like that came in when I had had a bout of bronchitis, was prescribed like a heavy dose of antibiotics. And that was all around the time when, when my kids were little, I was homeschooling, we were renovating a house. So I just feel it was like a perfect storm of things that were happening that caused like the yeast in my system to really get out of whack and contribute to the symptoms that I was having. So
So
I,
to pause right there really fast too, is like the funny thing about yeast or Candida overgrowth is that sugar is what feeds it. So people are like, how do you know you have it? Well, most likely if you have the kind of symptoms you were having, like brain fog, fatigue, it's the most common finding when I have a stool analysis test
yeah.
done on people, because sugar loves it. We all eat plenty of that. And, it's just the most common thing that's there. A nice little test is to stick out your tongue and see if there's a white coating on it,
Hmm.
or to have a glass of water, and this is gross, but spit into the water and watch to see if your saliva has little strings coming down from it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two like at-home tests you can do for, do I have yeast or Candida overgrowth? Also, when Candida proliferates in the gut, it can grow little roots. And so you've got this protective barrier in your gut, and it grows roots that seep through. And then that's how it becomes systemic. And it can cause things like frequent UTIs. It can cause things like upper respiratory and sinus problems.
Mm-hmm.
Even like, like athlete's foot and things like that. But the two most common things are like the urinary tract and the respiratory tract. So problems with that. So just in case people are listening and want to know,
Mm-hmm.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. And so what I started to do some research and figure out, okay, what would this look like, detoxing from sugar? And for me, I landed at doing a 3-month detox where I forget exactly what I did now, but I know like the first week or two, it was pretty strict. Like not only did it cut out the added sugars, it also cut out like a lot of the, like all the grains and the,
Fruit, even usually fruit,
yeah, like the
coffee,
higher,
caffeine.
yes, like the only kind of fruit I could have was like lemons or limes, like super low sugar. Even um, cutting out things like carrots, which was hard because I love carrots and hummus. But yeah, so any of the fruits or vegetables that had a much higher naturally occurring sugar content in them for the first couple weeks was cut out, because from what my research it said, like even those can contribute, and like you just want the yeast to die off and you have to just starve it.
And it's not
So
about doing that forever. And it's not about
yes,
demonizing, people will be like,
right.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
fruit is bad for you. I can't get
Right.
on board with that. And I'm like, no.
No,
But when you're
yeah.
addicted, you got to stop the cycle. Like you have to
Yes.
stop feeding it. You have to cut that off and cut it out entirely. And
Yeah.
you have to go through withdrawal. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's a serious process. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could spike a fever and get sick. You could have a die-off reaction. You could get headaches. You're going to get really crabby. You could have digestive
Mm-hmm.
upset. You're like, you got to wait for it to die off. You really have to get through that hump.
Yes. Yeah. So I knew like part of the research too was figuring out, okay, what can I eat? Because I also wanted to do it primarily plant-based as well. I didn't want to start bringing all the meat back in. So yeah, so a lot of that was just planning it out. And then after like the first week or two of the kind of the most hard like die off phase, then I gradually added things back in stages. So like one of the first things was like adding carrots or sweet potatoes or like green apples. And then what did I do the second month? I think
Probably berries.
oh yeah, berries were early on too. So I think each like through that second month, it was just gradually adding more of that stuff back in. Oh, going back to I'm trying to think, at some point I went back to eating oatmeal, whereas I was eating buckwheat groats because I was following the anti-Candida diet, which you can just Google online, and they had, for whatever reason, they said instead of like oats, do like gluten-free grains. So I did that, and then the third month was exciting. I got to add raisins back in, or like some of the dried fruits, because that had been like, I was a big raisin hound. And then so at the end of the third month, then that was where I knew that if I wanted to, I could start eating the added sugars again. But I got to the end of that 3 months and I felt so good. I was like, I do not want to go back to that thing. Like the digestive issues were gone. I had definitely experienced an even bigger uptick in my energy. What else? Oh yeah, the thing, I struggle with anxiety, and I noticed that the anxiety levels really decreased. So that was huge for me, because I mean, who likes to feel anxious? It sucks. So I loved that I had that. So there was 3 really big motivators for me to keep going with this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go back to the place I was. I do not want to have to go through that again. I just, I want to maintain. And the cool thing is that by doing that, the following spring, when typically my seasonal allergies flare up, like we're in it right now, but typically for 6 months of the year, I would have to be on allergy medication, and often feeling fatigued and coming down with a cold, which I always felt
the
like
respiratory pathways too,
Yes.
The mucosa.
Yes. So by maintaining a diet that was very low, very, very low in added sugars, by the time the next allergy season rolled around, I only needed the allergy medications for like right now when everything is blooming, or in August when the ragweed comes out, because I'm just more highly allergic to that. So that was hugely freeing for me too, because again, I don't like to take medicine. If I can avoid it and find other ways, I will do that first. Yeah. And yeah, so I just feel like I can navigate seasonal allergy season much better on the whole. So that's the story of like my own health journey, how, yeah, I was someone who didn't really pay attention, and I made these changes and recognized how challenging they are. And so when I started doing the plant-based diet, that's when I started a food blog to share the recipes, because, as I'm making them and sharing them with people, yeah, like ultimately they want to know. And especially after I finished the sugar detox and knew that I want to continue to eat that way, I knew that to do it in a way that felt enjoyable was to come up with recipes that would feel like that would be treats or desserts for me, but wouldn't have the added sugars in it. So then it was like a whole other level of recipes. But I also was realizing that just sharing recipes and giving people information doesn't help them make the change for themselves. Like we can research the heck out of something. It's not going to make a difference for us. There has to be like either a really big motivator, like there was for me at first with my dad's diagnosis, or you just have to address like habits, mindset, behaviors. And that's where the coaching comes in. So, based on my own health journey, and I finally knew that that's how I wanted to address the coaching that I had felt called to more than a decade before. And yeah, so I created a sugar detox program that I walked people through. And then last year, I actually went through a health coach certification process just so that I could work more with like businesses or, the medical community, because those certifications are, I feel like, more important to those audiences. Like most of my clients don't typically ask me what my certifications are, but I just like knowing I have it. And yeah, and just like the coaching experience and the knowledge that I gained through that, I felt would just accelerate the results for my clients. So instead of me taking a few years to figure out what works best, like I had immediate access to probably like more than 50 years worth of collective experience that I was given. So
yeah, well, it's kind of like having a guide on how to guide people, because I went to school for like 9 years,
Mm-hmm.
And still have continuing education each year. And that's there for a reason, because I wasn't instantly knowing everything I needed to know to be in practice
Yeah.
forever. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, especially about running a business. So that's what, like, I am a big believer in utilizing like guides and coaches and people in your
Mm-hmm.
life to help you.
Yes.
Especially with things that you know you're not going to be super great at. If you're watching this and you're like, got it, kick sugar, I'm going to feel better, I can do that, I'm going to check out your blog, I got this. Great, good for you. You're in like the 2% of people who are capable of a big change like that without any help. And that's amazing. But if you're the 98% that's sitting there like, this sounds like something I couldn't do, I don't think you understand, I am a sugarholic, I'm a sweets girl, and that's me, I'm a sweets guy, like I'm addicted, we know that's your addiction talking. It's running you from your head, and also in your beliefs about yourself and your health, and it's also running you chemically. Like, it's a very
Mm-hmm.
real thing that we're not denying, but that's why you need help.
Yes.
That's why you just get help, even if it's just accountability. Half the time when people do functional medicine protocols here, they're like, gosh, at least I just get to check in, and I know you're going to be asking me, like, did you take your supplements? How have you been eating? Have you, did you stop weighing yourself every day? It's not a healthy thing to do either, you
Yeah.
know?
Yes.
So like, what's one of the biggest like tips or steps that, without giving away all your secrets and everything, what's one of like the biggest tips you could give someone, or what's one area that you dive into right away when you are working with someone?
Yeah. So the first thing that I teach is read the ingredients on what you're buying. It
Yeah.
seems
Why
like,
wouldn't you? You're going to put it in your body. You're using it as
yes.
fuel to run your
Yes.
entire body, you know?
Yes.
I love that. Go ahead. Sorry. I get
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And it's interesting because when I've done workshops and stuff on this, like I'll ask, how many of you like read the ingredient labels? And it's been surprising to me how many people don't, like, that they're looking at the front of the package or even the silly nutrition label
Or
as the
just reading
guide.
calories.
Yes, like again, the nutrition label is, when you look at it with the ingredients, it can be instructive, but if you're just looking at the nutrition label, it's like it's a total joke because they can manipulate the numbers just by changing the serving sizes. It's not giving you the whole picture. And we have to
Well,
remember that when
health
you're
is not calories in, calories out. It never
yes.
has been. People are like, weight loss is simple. All you have to do is eat less and work out more, spend more calories than you take in. No, that is weight loss, and that's a really, really tiny, shallow view, and it doesn't work for everyone, or else we'd be out of jobs.
Yes.
That's not the
Yeah.
answer. That's not the way to build health. And health is always going to be more important than weight loss, because it will either end you early or later. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
only get one life. So it's always going to be more important to build health than to just lose weight. But weight loss is a really cool byproduct of improving your health. And
Mm-hmm.
you can only improve your health by getting testing done and knowing exactly what's going on in your body, and not just traditional testing where you can be like within a huge range and they're telling you, well, you just have 4 kids. That's why you're tired. That's why you have brain fog.
Yes.
That's why you have horrible like digestive issues.
Yeah.
We don't have an answer or a prescription for that. So we're not your people to help you.
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing I like to teach my clients about is how, like, the food industry, like, they are marketing to us. They know the hot buttons that need to be pushed to get you to buy. And if you look at products that are being positioned as healthy, see how they, like, next time you're at the grocery store, if you have time, and given the social distancing thing, but just take a look at how ones that are marketed, like what the packaging looks like compared to the ones that are straight up junk food.
Even
Like,
the color green has been associated with low fat items for years.
yes. Yes. Or like it's more natural looking, like it's meant to look like paper bags, or like anything more of an organic material. That's what they're going to do. And then even look at the wording, like it'll say all natural, or whatever. I feel like protein, the whole protein thing is such a hot button. So there's going to be so much protein this, protein that. One thing that I haven't taken the time to look up, but I'm going to guess that I'm right on this is, the like the protein bars that are sold, like this is something that I've noticed in the past few months, and I believe it's just a marketing tactic, is like, if you look at the aisles where there are like the protein bars, granola bars, or whatnot, like you can find the protein bars there. But what I've noticed a few months ago is that I started seeing protein bars showing up in the refrigerated aisle. I don't know if yes.
Yeah, and like they're using unstable ingredients. And I feel like there's so much chemical ingredient in a lot of them,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
But anyway, I think I haven't compared like the protein bar in like the non-refrigerated section to the one in the refrigerated, but I have a feeling like the ingredients are pretty much the same. But if you think about it, like, we are now being told, like, shop the perimeter, right? Like, shop your fruits and veggies. So if you see something that is in the refrigerated section, in your mind, you're immediately going to think, oh, that's healthier.
Yeah.
So it's just where, like, reading the ingredients and really knowing what you're putting into your body is so helpful. And also because it just gives you an appreciation for how much added sugars are put into the foods that we buy. Obviously, like, not fruits and vegetables. And that's another thing that I share with my clients too, and in my workshops, is that there are more than 70 names of added sugars and chemical sugars out there. So many different forms. And so when I say detoxing from sugar, it's like one of those forms, not the sugars that are naturally occurring in the fruits and vegetables and grains, unless you suspected Candida overgrowth and you have to do like more of a harder detox from that for just a couple weeks. But I think too, there's this misconception that added, like, sugar means cane sugar, and it doesn't. It means maple syrup. It means honey. It means fruit juice.
Brown rice sugar.
Agave, yeah, like all of that.
And there are better forms or lower glycemic index, and it doesn't mean you have to never eat any of those things again, but especially when you're detoxing, and especially when you are not tracking the amount, it's so easy to get way too much.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like the other thing I want to address too, and where especially I come in as a coach, especially when I'm helping somebody with sugar addiction, is to help you figure out what makes sense for you. Because that is how you are going to sustain it. Like, if you go in being like, I'm never going to eat sugar again, but if that's not really the choice that you want to make, it's only going to last for so long. So we get really clear about based on what do you want to be feeling or experiencing in your health.
Yeah.
And then listening to your body and figuring out, okay, well, just how much sugar feels like too much. Like, for me, I figured out, like, I'll have some, like, I know how much generally I can have before I start to feel off, like where I'll feel kind of sick, where I feel very anxious. But yeah, there's definitely amounts that I can have when I want to have them, and it doesn't have any impact.
Yeah, it's so important to tune into your body. That way, you're not riding the roller coaster of your symptoms and like, I feel like this, I feel like this, I feel like this, I feel like this, because that's going to change by the day, by the minute, by the hour, by the habit, it's going to constantly be changing, and you can't just be reactive and ride that roller coaster. You can, however, in a healthy way, tune into your body and hear the times when it whispers before it screams.
Yes.
When it's saying, hey, by the way, I'm a little bit hungry, and if you wait too long, you're going to want to eat every donut in Cleveland, Ohio, instead of just like having a snack now and stopping that. Or guess what? Yeah. I'm telling you I'm hungry, but actually I'm thirsty. And like little things to tune into before it becomes like a raging addiction monster in your brain. And that's true for pain too. People are like, yeah, I'm fine. And I've never had pain before today. It just happened out of nowhere overnight. And I'm like, no, it didn't. If you're able to tune into your body in a unique way, you rarely then get to these like emergent or addiction and bad situations, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love talking about sugar addiction. It's
Yeah.
like I could go on all day about all the good points, and it's so important. And I feel like, getting a test to see what's really going on with your body, getting assessments, and then having someone to help guide you through it is really the key to success, for most people. So you have something that you're willing to offer our audience if anyone is interested in trying to kick their sugar habit and needs some help, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really simple. It is a 45-minute conversation with me over the phone, or we could do Zoom if you are really prefer the more face-to-face interaction. And so it's an opportunity for you to articulate exactly what you want to be experiencing in your health, what your vision is. And then we talk about what is stopping you and holding you back, and then giving you a clear idea of what you need to do to move forward. So,
who would be the perfect person to take advantage and take you up on this call?
yes. So primarily I work with women. If there are any guys that are watching this that are like, yeah, I really want to work with you, I'm definitely open to that. But again, generally I work with women, and women who struggle with a sugar addiction, that they're so frustrated with their energy levels. Like, they know that they want more energy, right? Because they have this drive to want to just be able to serve the people around them well, whether it's their families or in their work or volunteering, whatever it is. And they just feel like they're being held back because their energy levels just aren't where they want them to be. Or that after listening to us talk, if some of these light bulbs have been going off where you're like, oh, I've been experiencing brain fog, or yeah, my seasonal allergies feel like really out of whack, that sort of thing.
Or like, I'm worried that I'm heading towards diabetes and have
yes.
some immune downregulation, some immune system problems. And now I'm afraid that I might be more susceptible to viruses and illnesses because of what I've been hearing about. And so I want to build my health, right?
Yes.
That's a great reason right there.
Yeah. And if you find yourself stress eating, and if when you feel under stress, like you want to turn to bready carbs, because those are quick forms of sugar as well, or certainly just straight up like the cookies, the ice cream, like all of the things that we normally think of as sugar laden. If you find yourself being a stress eater and you're turning to those things and you're like, I want to kick it, I want to figure it out, then that is the perfect person to come in and do one of these sessions with me.
Okay. And it's, does it cost anything?
It's complimentary.
Woo! You're the best.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Can I type the name of your blog into the comments section so people can access that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So honestly,
or should I just tag you and you can add some stuff later?
Yeah, that would be best. Or you can even just put my phone number in. Like, honestly, if someone's interested, calling me or texting me is probably the simplest way, because then I can get you the link to my online scheduler and we can go from there. So
what is the number?
Yeah, 216-630-2278.
Oh. 216-630-2278?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I tagged you and put your number in there in case anyone is interested. Thanks so much for joining us. I feel like everyone is going to watch this and be like, I can do anything. I'm ready to kick my sugar addiction. Yay. So I think it's great. And it's one of the most important first steps you can take for your health ever. If you want to lose weight, if you want to feel better, if you want to boost your health, if you just want to lower your pain. I mean, sugar's the best place to start. Don't you think? Yes. I mean, it's just the biggest bang for your buck. And everything in life will seem so much easier if you just kick that. You will have such a sense of empowerment, I did it. And look what I did for my health. On the other side of the kind of tough, challenging journey is so much benefit and happiness and energy and life,
Yes. Yeah.
Really cool. Really cool to be on the other side of that. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrea. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah. And I hope you have a good day.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye.